Good morning, everyone. Hope all is well today on this crisp, cool November morning. We are going to go ahead and get started as the team continues to let people in. And we have some special guests with us today. We're combining our office hours with the CFP team to answer any questions you might have around the revised continuous improvement plan and data inventory. And we'll just ask as you're entering to please be on mute. We will offer opportunities for questions, but just to eliminate any background noise. I'm Lori Dolezal. I am the Director of Continuous Improvement for the Continuous Improvement team who's joining me today. Mariana, Tony, and Simona, I believe are all present. And we are going to talk a bit about the Continuous Improvement Plan today, just the revisions that we have in place to make this one plan for a variety of your needs. So the purpose of these revisions is to, of course, support all students in Vermont with equitable quality educational experiences. In response to feedback from the field on the need for more directives or requirements and expectations, to support compliance for LEAs and school potential audits and monitoring, to ensure alignment across CFP and our EQA teams, and to ensure that this one school level CIP will meet federal and state policy, regulations, statutes, including the annual submission and progress updates, and really to promote collective responsibility among schools and their LEAs. So school leadership and diverse stakeholders are involved in completing the plan, and the LEA leadership supports and approves the plan and monitors implementation. As part of the continuous improvement process, you'll do a comprehensive needs assessment so that schools can analyze the multiple sources of data from the four main categories displayed on the slide. So demographics, student outcomes, student process, and perceptions data. And from these analyses, schools can identify assets and challenges, specific problems of practice, as well as underlying root causes. Our comprehensive needs assessment toolkit and website resources can support you in doing these analyses. And the results, at least in part, will be documented in the data inventory template, which will support the development of your CIP goals and strategies. So currently, the initial portion of the CIP contains detailed instructions for completing the plan. Based on feedback we've received so far, these will be separated and included in a separate submission and instructions document, as well as assurances for completing the needs assessment, including the data inventory, obtaining board approval, making plans available to the community, and some other assurances are included there as well. Section 1 is completed by all schools and includes spaces to document the diverse stakeholders that are represented in the construction of the CIP. So this leaves space to include names, roles of stakeholders who are involved in developing the plan, such as parents, teachers, students, and community members. Section 2 needs to be completed by all schools who are identified for comprehensive and/or targeted support and improvement. So that is Equity 2 and 3 and CSI schools. This section contains information about how schools are allocating resources, including any inequities that might exist. And the section also includes space for documentation of goals, measures, and change ideas that might be needed to make improvements in this area. I want to highlight that this section is not the same as the resource allocation review, the formal resource allocation review that we'll be conducting with LEAs. So this is just at the school to consider how resources might be allocated within the school. Section 3 is completed by all schools again and includes documentation of your clear measurable goals, your measures, change ideas, and any related fiscal and human resources or investments that might support the implementation. This section also contains a space to reference goal numbers so that these can be later integrated into your CFP grant applications where applicable. And pursuant to Act 139, all schools are required to identify proficiency levels for literacy, as well as specific goals and change ideas for improvement. And just a reminder that the goals need to address academic achievement as well as safe, healthy schools. The goals must be clear, measurable, and related to student learning, and specify what is being improved, for whom, by when, and by how much. And we don't have a strict limit on the number of goals you put in your CIP, but best practice is to limit them to a manageable number so that you can actually implement them and measure them along the way. So your goals and evidence-based strategies need to be related to the root causes identified in your CNA and your data analyses. And if applicable, they must be related to the reasons for identification if you are a school eligible for comprehensive and or targeted supports. Our website contains useful resources and research for understanding and selecting evidence-based practices. And our EQC team, as well as other content specialists in the agency, are available to support you as you develop your CIP. We are currently formalizing in-depth support procedures, so collaborative teaming across the agency to support schools who are identified for comprehensive and targeted support. So as I mentioned earlier, pursuant to Act 139, schools are required to identify proficiency levels for literacy, as well as specific goals and evidence-based strategies for improvement. And this will be documented in Section 3A. Finally, the fourth section includes a space for schools to document specific data. So baseline data, progress monitoring, and end-of-year results for each goal that's referenced in the plan. For schools identified for comprehensive and targeted support, these plans will be updated for mid-year progress monitoring and end-of-year results to ensure implementation efforts are driving positive change and results. For everyone else, it's best practice that you update these plans, but you do not need to currently submit them for reapproval the 3 times a year. Okay, so that's it in a nutshell. As I mentioned earlier, we're taking feedback that we've been receiving and making any adjustments we can based on that feedback. And we'll take your questions now. Feel free to come off mute or to put your questions in the chat. And we do also have the members of the CFP team here joining us if you have any questions about the data inventory and how it connects.
Ori, can you clarify the people who are under targeted support? If you have just equity gaps, are you considered targeted supports?
So the targeted support is federal language. Hi, Kosha, how are you doing? The targeted support is federal language. And in Vermont, when the state plan was created, there was a decision made to call those schools Equity 2 schools, and additional targeted support is Equity 3. We also created an Equity 1 level that's not in federal statute to make people aware of any equity gaps that exist. So in the plan where you see targeted support, that's Equity 2 or Equity 3 schools. And maybe if one of my teammates wouldn't mind, for ease of access, to drop in the list. The list is on our website, both lists for schools identified for comprehensive and targeted support or equity supports. But if one of my teammates wouldn't mind dropping in the current list for targeted supports, then you will be able to see. And Kosha, you do not currently have any schools in that category. You may have Equity 1, but not targeted and additional targeted supports.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. And our hope is to get everything finalized and posted to our website. We're working on additional guidance documents, but we hope to get the revised template and everything up to the website by early December. And then the CFP team and our team can start organizing some really focused technical assistance to support you in the new year as you're developing your plans. And our plan for the plan submission is to open the window between May 1st and September 1st. Would love to hear any feedback on that window. Rebecca?
Hi. Yes, I just wanted to give a little bit of feedback on the window, just coming from a standpoint of a principal working with a teacher leadership team and hopefully, including the community in that goal writing. That timing is really challenging. We are winding down all our committee level work and going into summer, and so it doesn't really give us much of a runway. Would you suggest, is there a period that we could draft and submit or get feedback sooner so that we're not running into the end of the year and summer?
Yeah, I think something we've been grappling with too is all the various timelines. So we have the CFP application, which has its timeline for, I think, June 30th, July 1st, that kind of time frame, where you would need a CIP to, and CFP team, please chime in at any point and correct me when I'm wrong. You would need a CIP to kind of support the application. And then we have our the release of the schools who are identified for comprehensive and targeted support, which unfortunately is on a different timeline and will most likely happen in the fall. And so those schools can then kind of plan for the year. You use funds. If they receive funds, they can use funds to plan for the year and submit their CIP based on that planning year. So we were considering maybe a fall timeline, but then that doesn't kind of cover the CFP application, or the plan would be an older plan. So any additional feedback on an ideal window? I'm not sure there is an ideal window, but we could certainly open it earlier. I think we were thinking we wanted to leave it later we wanted to extend it, and it is a continuous improvement plan. So the idea is that you should be able to you can update it at any time, and regardless of when you do your planning.
Thanks.
You're welcome. Any other
Lori.
questions or
Yeah,
comments?
Lori,
Yes.
another quick question. Was there any decision made about having a district level CIP and school level CIPs?
Yes, Kosha. We've been talking a lot about that and hearing a lot about that. And the idea is that we don't see this as taking away the district level plan. It just didn't meet the needs of many of the federal and state regulatory requirements and statutes. So rather than submit two plans, so ask for LEAs and schools to submit both, we just discussed this yesterday, and best practice is that you do have one. You continue to craft those LEA, SU, district level goals and strategies. But currently, we're not asking you to submit those for approval. However, that is open to change. We're waiting also on the district quality standards process, the implementation of that to come out next year, and see what's in store for that as well, because we didn't want to put out something that then would be another plan. So continue to do that work and maintain those. And But currently, in this current window, we're not asking you to submit those for approval. We expect that you'll maintain that coherence, and the schools will work with LEA and LEA will work with schools, and everything will be kind of coherent. But that's where we are right now.
Okay, thank you. And so all the school level CIPs have to get approved by the board?
That's what statute says. So board approval, whatever that, it doesn't dictate how, but there's some involvement from the board, and that can look probably very different across your institutions.
Okay, thank you.
And it's also in statute that you need to make this available to the community. And again, however you do that is if it's on your website or whichever way you choose to do that. Up to you.
We have questions in the chat, Lori.
Okay.
Just as I announce it, and then I lose my.
Oh, I see. Yeah,
mark.
Linda.
Sorry.
So Linda,
Yes.
plans, there's a section 4 is for plan updates. So that's the section where you will update your data to see how you're doing, making progress toward your goals. You do not need to get that approved by the AOE. You do not need to resubmit and resubmit unless you are a school identified for comprehensive or targeted support. And we are working very, very closely with those schools, so you will know if you're one of them and what those expectations are. Jody, yes, having clear expectations and writing that. Those are the couple of documents I was referencing earlier that we're trying to get finalized, including the plan template by early December, so that we can then begin technical assistance and support in the field. And Nicole, a link, are you looking for a link to the schools, the identified schools?
Yes. Hi, yeah, you just mentioned there were Equity One schools, which I know is not a federal compliance, but it's something that the Agency of Education requires. So where do I find that list?
Tony or Simona, would you mind dropping the link to that in the chat? It's those lists are embedded in the annual snapshot, but it's not very intuitive in finding them. So we have PDFs that we can attach for you, and we can also put them in the follow-up email.
That'd be great. Thanks.
It's quite a long list, the Equity One. Jen, for Act 139, Emily Lesh, are you here today? I didn't know. Oh, Lesh, hey, yay, okay. Great.
Yes, I am here.
There's a question about Act 139 and if a school is beyond K3, do they need to fill that section out?
Great question, Jen. So Act 39 requires two things. So it does require K through 3 reporting on the number and percentage of students proficient at the local and state on local and state literacy assessments. And so this box in particular in the continuous improvement plan relates specifically to that. There is also a requirement in Section 7 of Act 139 that notes that the Agency of Education is to create a statewide plan and that local supervisory unions and districts are to create literacy plans. This does the reading of that language around the local plan creation is that they are K through 12 plans, but we are working to clarify that and to issue guidance on that. So I realize that was a lot, but in summary, this box really directly speaks to the K through 3 literacy assessments and the number and percentage of students proficient at the local and state level. And then districts are to have K through 12 local literacy plans, which we are working to incorporate into other planning processes and will issue guidance on.
Thank you, Emily. Thanks, Tony, for dropping that in.
Yeah, please know that that PDF for the equity list sometimes doesn't open. It just spins and spins and spins. So we'll gather up a list and send that out after with any follow-up documents as well.
Any other questions? Jody.
Hi, so I just want to make sure that I have this clear. Did I hear you say that at December at some point we would be getting all of the kind of the list of the expectations and how all of these things are working together, whether it's the CIP, the data inventory, the Act 139 expectations? Like, when are we getting all of this in a comprehensive kind of format so we can wrap our heads around it? Because right now it feels like we're getting a piece of this, a piece of that. So I'm just trying to, when are we going to get like the whole big picture?
So our goal, and I'm looking at Jesse because I don't know where you all are, but our goal is to get our guidance documents around the CIP and how it connects to the data inventory, and then we could also hyperlink anything. We can work with Emily to hyperlink any of the Act 139 details, but all the instructions for the CIP completion, including how you support it with your data inventory. Our goal is early December. If that works for CFP to have everything ready there, we can definitely hyperlink to those sites as well. So that's our goal. And then so that we can help provide you some joint TA in the new year as you're developing your plans.
Great,
Jesse,
thank you.
does that work? Yeah, Jesse, does that work for your team?
Yeah, that's definitely the plan that we had discussed the other day with our two teams together. So I think that is still the plan.
Perfect. I see some questions in the chat. Jen, what is the current state of the snapshot? I can't find reference tables. So the snapshot, the next iteration of the identifications for the snapshot will be released in February, I believe. Early February is the plan. And that will just be for our newly identified equity or TSI, targeted support schools. The next iteration for any schools identified for comprehensive support will happen in the fall of 2025. Hope that answers your question, Jen. And all the current data that's in there is the lists and everything else are current from that 23 data. So the 2024 assessment data. No, the 2024 assessment data will then be released in 2025. And when we submit our CFP, will we need to submit school level data inventories instead of an LEA level inventory? It is combined with the, I'll let Jesse speak to that, but.
Yeah, so the data inventory template will be one document submitted by the LEA within your CFP application. And then similar to anyone that has had school-wide plans in the past, there's a section for school level data. So you'll fill out the other sections for sort of like the topical areas that are related to different intentions of different titles. And then The school section is where you'll fill out data specific to each of your schools. And that's sort of the section that will capture the data that correlates back to individual CIPs for all your schools. So it's going to function very similarly to how the current data inventory functions for anyone that has school-wide programs, where you would list the individual sort of data points for your schools. You'll still do the same thing. It's just going to be for all schools, even if they're not operating school-wide programs. So one document will include specific data for all the individual schools within your LEA. Even if you run, yes, so Jen, your follow-up question, even if you run a targeted program, that's correct. It's now just going to be all schools, not specific to school-wide programs, just all schools within the LEA will need to represent school level data underneath the school section of the data inventory. So that's kind of like the major change of the data inventory, is that when previously I only checked if you operated a school-wide program that you had school level data in there. And some of you might remember that I have sent them back before to say you have to actually have school level data in here. Make sure you revise your data inventory and include school level data. It will be the same this year, except for it will be for every LEA, even if you only operate targeted programs. And that's because, again, that state requirement is that every school has an improvement plan. And this is just sort of like the holding place for the data that's representing you did that school level data collection, assessment, evaluation to influence your school level improvement plans. Okay, there's another question here. Are you saying that the SWP will not be embedded in the DI or the CIP? No, that's not what I'm saying. The school-wide program plan, the requirements for a school-wide program plan are covered, incorporated in the CIP, the continuous improvement plan template. So now there's one template document that meets the requirements of an improvement plan and a school-wide program plan. So it's one plan for each school. And in terms of the data inventory, underneath that school section is just where you will represent the school-specific data that was used to determine the activities that are going to be implemented for each of those school-specific plans.
One more question, Jessie. If we
Yes.
are submitting, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
That's okay, thanks. If we are submitting our CFP application in May before our end of year assessment data is available, do we use winter data in the DIT? You would use, yeah, whatever is most available to you, or most recent, whatever data is most recently available is what you could use.
And we want to reiterate too, the data for accountability, the assessment data, the Vermont CAP data for accountability are mainly for accountability, that you should be using your local data, which tells you so much more in your continuous improvement planning.
Did I answer and clarify those questions about how the school-wide programs integrated into the CIP and the data inventory, or is there still confusion from anyone? Okay.
I'm always happy to hear that more than once, to tell you the truth.
Okay. So to reiterate again, every school in the state of Vermont will have a CIP, a continuous improvement plan. That is to align with state law, and then also many of the federal laws that require a school level plan. The template that we have, that Lori has just discussed and showed you some pieces of today, is going to meet the requirements for that state law and those federal laws for a school level plan. So all your schools will have that school level plan. For the data inventory, there's going to be one document that is uploaded with your SIP submissions and your CFP application that we will reference for the CFP application review as, again, that evidence of data that's supporting the needs of all the investments and strategies that you're writing into your grant application. And the main difference between how the data inventory works currently and how it will work in the future is that instead of the school section only being for Title I school-wide program schools, it's going to now be for all schools, period. It's just going to be the section where all of the school-specific data can get sort of captured as evidence of that school-level data that was utilized during the needs assessment and determination of goals and activities and investments at the school level. It's just going to be incorporated into that school section of the data inventory. That was my reiteration, and hopefully it was clear to everyone, but let me know if you have other questions.
Jody's asking, is there disaggregated data for historically marginalized groups for the state? If so, where do I find it? So Jody, there is some data in the annual snapshot for this at the state level. I don't know if that would be sufficient for what you're looking for or how well it drills down or not for what you're looking for. But we also have information on the education dashboard, the Vermont ED dashboard for the state as well. We'll send links to both of those in the follow-up. And I know we used to, back in the day, we used to post, or the data team used to post spreadsheets, like the raw data spreadsheets, so you can manipulate them any which way you want. I'm not sure if those are available, but I can check. Bryn, each school will submit school level CIP to the AOE directly or first to the LEA, who then submits via GMS. So we just talked about this yesterday. And I think, and we're still finalizing everything, but I think what we decided is that we would keep it in the GMS tab and that the LEA approval sign off would come by the LEA uploading all of its schools CIPs, but stay tuned for the final guidance on that. It'll be all written down for you. Please reply again to Kosha's question. Jesse, if we are submitting our CFP application in May before end of year assessment data is available, excuse me, do we use winter data in the data inventory? Or the most recent, you can use the most recent local data you have, but Jesse, I'll let you add to that.
Yeah, exactly what you just said. You can use the most recent available, and you should, as Lori said previously, you should be using local assessment data, not just sort of formal state assessment data. So whatever sort of benchmarking data you have is what can be utilized as well.
So we can send out the statewide snapshot data, but know that it is a link to the snapshot. It's an interactive snapshot. So you have to go in and select which school, which SU, or the state, if you want the state level data, and play around with those. If you wanted to look at FRL and non-FRL, you can see those data. I'm not sure if that's what you would be looking for, because in the snapshot, you will see indicators, icons that determine if we're meeting, exceeding, so they're not raw numbers. I can check with the data team, though, to see if they have or would be willing to post, if they're not already, those raw data Excel spreadsheets that we used to have on our website. So again, you can use for percentages, you can use the Vermont Education Dashboard, which I think may be closer to what you're looking for. But either way, we're going to send both the snapshot and the VED dashboard. But if you're getting a little frustrated with a snapshot not giving you what you need, try the dashboard. And if that's still not getting you what you need, please send in a request, and if even to us, and we can forward it to the data team to get you what you need. Jody.
When you're talking, thank you. When you're talking about the Ed dashboard or the annual snapshot, what is the most recent data that we're talking about? What years?
For both, it'll be 2023.
For 2023, 2024, or 2022, 2023?
2022, 2023. So the end of year 2023 is what's posted currently.
So we're still a year behind.
Yes.
And that won't be rectified until February? That's when did I hear someone say that's when the new data is coming out, is in February?
Right. Yeah, that's when the new 2023, 24 data is supposed to be released in terms of identification. So locally you have those data, but the identifications come out in February. And then leadership is trying to get on a fall timeline. So I'm not sure exactly what month it will be, but if that goes through, then the identifications will occur in the fall of 2025. So more recently. So for the 2025 data, when that's released, when you get it locally, I don't know when you get it, maybe July, August, whenever you get it, shortly after is the plan to release those identifications. So it's closer to the actual data that we're using to make those identifications.
So I guess my question would be, or my comment would be, that we are working on old data, right? And we're expected to do needs assessments and all of those things and comparisons, and we're using old data. And that's really challenging for us in the field because it's sometimes they don't say the same types of things, right? And so having this lag time into February really is makes our job incredibly challenging. So anything we can do to get the data that we need as soon as we possibly can, especially the state level comparisons, the disaggregated data, it makes our job a whole lot easier. So that's, if I was going to say like priority, that getting accurate recent data as quickly as we can is a priority for our state.
Yes, I agree. And I think leadership agrees. I know leadership agrees. We all agree. And if Danielle were here, I would ask her a question about those data. But that's why we encourage you to use your local data as much as possible, because it is much more recent, and the assessment data you do have locally, rather than waiting for the state to release everybody's data throughout the state. Use your local assessment data, your VCAP data locally, which is another reason why we wanted to extend that window, so that if you are planning in July, August and using those data, there would still be time to submit your CIP. But that is a high priority of leadership right now, Jody. Let's see. Assurance to say this.
Sorry, I just jumped in at the same time and I was just going to say Jen has another question, it looks like, about the assurances, talking about the plan being developed with other federal, state, and other resources, programs, et cetera. That is part of the, one of the sort of, I guess, points in statute that this program or this plan should be coordinated. And that's literally what it says, with other federal, state, local services, resources, and programs. And so that can look like a variety of different things. Like, it doesn't have, that's not like a trick question. It really can be as simple as like, we're coordinating it with like our McKinney-Vento program, our after school program, our local community organizations, after school extracurricular programs, or, local services like that. It could be really whatever you are, when you're thinking about those goals and those strategies that you're using and the activities that are happening within that school, what are all of those potential services, programs, resources that are being integrated to create a comprehensive school level plan. Doesn't have to be like, I feel like people think that's a trick question, but it really can be as simple as like, you know, the other types of programs that are happening within that school to serve those same goals.
We see the need for recent data, and we will definitely bring, I mean, everybody's in the know about that, so we'll bring that part back because we are working on that. But I will bring back to the data team the requests for data in a different way.
And just to reiterate, Lori, I think you said this, but I'm just going to confirm, like, all the LEAs have received their own data from 23-24. So you have access to your own information. It's just not posted on the AOE's website yet.
Yeah. And I will also add to that, that information, you have more information in those data that we do not have or we do not report out. But yes, I see the need for presenting to boards as well from the state level is valid. We all want to get on that timeline.
That's absolutely been a priority, I will say, of our leadership, as Lori said. Like, that has been a huge push for our agency over the past several months.
Any other questions or comments? I have practiced my teacher wait time. I'm assuming there aren't any, oh, wait, spoke too soon. So will CIPs need to be completed by schools that have fewer than 100 students? Yes, CIPs are required for all schools. And Anne. Oh, Anne's affirming our comments is always fully committed to providing statewide data much earlier. Yes, very much so. True, can academic be goal be a growth goal, not a proficiency goal? Yes, Kosha, as long as you have clear, measurable way to measure that, absolutely. I encourage that. Yes, Jody, I think once everything is kind of out there, that's when the questions will arise for how do we do this? And that's our plan then to kind of have provide the technical assistance and support that you'll need. So you'll be hearing from us a lot in the new year about how to actually implement all of this together. A lot of changes have been coming, we know. Okay. When will DQS be released? So the plan, I'm assuming they're still on the timeline. The plan is July 2025, I believe, for the beginning of that. District quality standards for anyone wondering. Welcome. Well, you know where we all are. If you have other questions that you think about, asking us, please feel free to reach out. You can reach out to your education quality coordinator. You can reach out to me, Jesse. Thank you, Anne. Courtney O'Brien can answer DQS questions in more detail. The data team is there for you too with any data related questions or